Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Liam Looks At, and today we are looking at Nioh 3. This is my most anticipated game of 2026, probably my most anticipated game since Nioh 2. The Nioh series has always been my favorite gaming series, so obviously hearing that Nioh 3 was coming out, very, very excited, and I was definitely excited to get into this game, and that's why it's kind of been a minute since I've reviewed a game. I've been really focusing on playing this. I did beat it a couple weeks ago, but I am now ready to review it and kind of go in depth with my thoughts and what I liked and what I didn't like. So yeah, Neo 3. Very excited for this game. I played Neo 1 all the way back when it came out originally. It was actually one of my first. It actually was my first Souls-like game at all. I know that term kind of gets thrown around a lot, and I definitely think that Neo has its own identity. But it definitely shares a lot of the similarities to the Souls games. But yeah, this was the first one that I had ever played, and so that kind of introduced me to the genre and it really made me fall in love with it. So it was great to come back. Great to see Neo again. Neo 2 was a great game. I've always preferred the original. I don't know why. I know everyone says the Neo 2 is like this amazing game. Weirdly, I've always preferred the original. The setting, the story, the bosses and things like that. But Neo 2 is obviously, in a lot of ways, an improvement. And this game is another. I don't know if I would use the word improvement. I would use the word it's another iteration of the series because they've done a lot of things that have changed up the way that Neo 2 is played. And what's interesting between Neo 2 or Neo 1 to Neo 2 to Neo 3, these games stand alone. I mean, there are systems and things like that that are obviously carried over, but the way they play and the way they are set up, they each have their own kind of systems, and so that's something that I think is really cool because you it makes you want to go back and play that original game. Two, I think personally, does not completely destroy it. So three, coming in, I know I've seen a lot of people upset with certain systems and things like that, which I'll get into. But I definitely think that Neo 3 does a good job of setting itself apart, and it doesn't make it so you only want to play Neo 3. Neo 2 has its place, Neo 1 has its place, and Neo 3 is just an iteration of that. I want to get into some of the things that I really liked from this game that are different from Neo 2 and Neo 1. One of the biggest changes that they've made is obviously the ninja stance. There are pros and cons with this stance, so I'm going to start with the pros. I really loved having a whole nother way of playing this game. Obviously Team Ninja was the studio that brought Ninja Gaiden into the fold, and this ninja stance plays pretty much like a Ninja Gaiden game. Obviously, there is still very heavy Neo gameplay mechanics, but it is a straight on ninja game. There are no more stances. There are no more, heavier weapons and things like that. It is fully being a ninja and fighting fast. There's no key pulse, key recovery, and things like that. So Ninja Stance is almost an entirely different game if you consider those things core to Neo's gameplay, which I do. But I think the problem with that comes into the fact that the ninja skill trees feel very, very um, kind of useless in comparison to the samurai skill trees. So the samurai skill trees, you're going to have a skill for every single stance. So you can buy 3, 4 different skills and be able to slot them in for different stances. Unfortunately, ninja, you only have so many button presses that you can do. You only have so many martial arts skills that you can do. So I do think that ninja lacks on that. I also do think that there are certain moves and certain things stance wise that the ninja weapons I miss. I mean, I miss the Kusuragami. I miss being able to swing the ball around and hit the enemies in high stance. I think that was a great damage dealer. And unfortunately, that move is completely gone due to the fact that there is no high stance for Kusuragama. That being said, I do think that taking the weapons and some of these weapons, I think benefit from only having the one stance. I think the split staff, I used that in Neo 2 very minimal because I feel like it didn't need the 3 stances. In Neo 3, I think it worked perfectly with the ninja stance. I feel like I got everything I needed from that. I played still most of the game in samurai stance. I think that is the way that most Neo players probably played this game because it feels so familiar. It has that original stance system. It has the key pulse system. It has all the all the things that you recognize in a Neo game. Some of the other things that I like that they did, I really like the way they did Living Weapon. So back with the original Neo, you had what's called living weapon. You had a yokai spirit that you would get and you would set, and then when you do your essentially ultimate move, you would turn into, your sword would go on fire, you become invincible, and you just kind of go crazy. In Nioh 2, you would turn into your yokai form. The problem with the yokai form is I didn't feel that it felt powerful at all. It did not. It was not something that I used at all. And maybe some people like that. Maybe some people like that it didn't become an instant win button. But I personally never really used the yokai form because I felt like it was weak and slow, and just didn't have the impact that it had originally. So they've kind of gone back to the quick kind of, you have your full move set, you just have buffs and things like that, and I personally like that. There are a lot less spirits in this game. There are a lot less guardian spirits in this game than the other few. You only get one guardian spirit per stance, where originally you could have two. In Nioh, but I guess they've kind of nerfed things by giving you less. Thankfully, they added the ability to have multiple weapons. When the original beta or demo alpha was what it was called, the original alpha came out, you only had one weapon for each stance. Thankfully, they allow you to have two weapons for each stance, but you only have one range weapon. So I would essentially have a bow on one and a gun on the other. So those things that they really changed up that I did like. There are a few things that I wasn't the biggest fan of. One of them being, I think the open world is something that I'm not the biggest fan of. So when I played Nioh 1 and Nioh 2, the great thing about it is you can instantly kind of jump back into missions and replay them. And that's definitely here. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of missions that you can play and you can replay. But the problem is a majority of the game is this open field exploration. I think it's really great for a first playthrough, and it was fun to kind of go through these things. But unfortunately, once I cleared an entire area and hit every single nook and cranny, I have no desire to go back, because I feel like I spent 60 hours on this, and I definitely feel like I explored every little corner of the maps. And while I know the point is not to re-explore everything, I feel like I spent so much time with this game in one single sitting, and that might be me, that I don't want to go back. Like for Nioh 1 and Nioh 2, I could say, hey, I really like this mission, I want to go back to it. But for this, it was like, if I liked parts of the open world, I now have to go back and re-explore that whole area, and it doesn't feel the same as playing the missions. I think that's what really set Nioh apart. Every Souls game is going to have that either interconnected world. Obviously, Elden Ring has an open world, but there are no Nioh or Souls games really with missions, and I think that's what set Nioh apart. And it's unfortunate that they went the open world route, because I think that that's something that set Nioh apart from other Souls-like games, and really from other games in this genre in total. I want to talk about performance because that's something that is important to me in gaming, especially here recently. And I want to talk about my experience with it, because I do think that when the alpha originally came out, I thought the performance was horrible. I played all the Team Ninja games. I love them. Rise of the Ronin is the one that I never finished, and I never finished it solely based on the performance was so horrible, in my opinion, that it wasn't something that I had fun playing. I mean, I was constantly in low 50s, high 40s. It was a game that I don't think ran well. So I had a lot of fear when I played that alpha and I saw how bad the performance was, that Nioh 3 was going to be the same deal. I am happy to report, for anyone that hasn't played the game or is curious, the game has fairly good performance. It's not perfect. It's definitely not perfect. The second area, the snow area, is pretty atrocious, I will say. And it's a big map, and there are some really, really bad drops. And it's funny because somebody had released footage before with like the frame time graph and things like that showing it. And I was like, wow, this is really bad the game is. Thankfully, that's really the only area that is that bad. So one map out of 4 different maps. The game pretty much performs well. I would say if you are someone that is sensitive to frame drops and things like that, it's definitely playable. I'm not giving them a pass. I think a lot of companies get a pass. From Software gets a pass. Team Ninja gets a pass. And I've heard the PC performance can be poor as well. So hopefully it's something they focus on. But unfortunately, seeing their track record, and it's been almost a month since the game's come out, We have not had any patches for performance, and I don't think we're going to. So that's something to just be aware of if you are on the fence due to performance. I think that it is playable, which, take that with what you will. I wish I had the actual graphs and things like that to show you kind of performance in the game. But I would say 80% of the time, it was a fairly locked 60 FPS. There was, even that snow area definitely had moments that it was, fine, but there were some significant drops. So something to be aware of if that is something that you are sensitive about. This has been kind of a more off the cuff review. So I want to wrap it up and talk about the thing that I noticed the most while playing, and I think that a lot of people noticed. It was on the Reddit and things like that, and I see a lot of people talking about it. I've seen it on a couple of videos. The difficulty of this game. I just got finished with First Berserker, which a review of that is also going to come out, and I have a lot to say about the difficulty in that game. But I finished this game, and I would say the most I died to a boss was, I think, 11 times, which for me is not a lot. I mean, I usually die to a boss 20, 30, 40 times before I beat it. Most of these bosses I beat in one try. Most of these bosses I beat in, on the first try. The game is definitely significantly easier. I thought Nioh 2 was significantly easier than 1, personally. So it is something to be aware of. I didn't really mind it, to be honest. I had played First Berserker before and after this. I kind of played that all the way to the final boss, got stuck, then this came out, focused on this, then finished First Berserker. So I was kind of over hard games after that. So I was happy that it was not as hard. But I do understand that this is supposed to be a difficult game, and I do think that they are going a little bit too much into the, trying to make it more accessible. That being said, I wouldn't say it's an easy game. I would say that if you go through this game and do every single side mission, do every single thing that you can, and beat all the bosses and level yourself up, you're going to have a pretty standard time. Obviously, if you try to rush it, you are going to end up being under-leveled. But I would say being on par and on level, the game is very doable. So personally, it didn't ruin my enjoyment of the game at all. But I do know that some people were upset that it wasn't as difficult as the others, and I will say that is true. I am definitely not the best at these games, so the fact that I was able to kind of breeze through it, I never really got stuck. I never had to walk away and take a break and come back, which is something I always do for most of these games. It's definitely an easier experience. That being said, I still think it was very enjoyable. I love this game. I love the Nioh franchise. I have, Nioh 1 is my favorite game of all time. It's the only game I reviewed on this channel with an actual script. Nioh 2 is a huge step up from that game, and I know it's a lot of people's favorites, and it's some of the best, in the genre. Nioh 3 is definitely a step. It's more of a step sideways from Nioh 2 than a step up, and I don't think that's too much of a bad thing. I think a lot of they've changed so many systems in it, and I didn't even get into half of the systems, and because I feel like there are so many reviews that are going to go way more in depth in this game. We can talk about the loot. We can talk about the, all of the build thing, build and theory crafting and stuff like that you can do. But I think that this, I just want to give my quick thoughts on it because I haven't reviewed a game in a while and I wanted to get this out for sure. I think that this game is fantastic. I'm excited to see where the DLC takes it. But yeah, overall, I give Nioh 3 2 thumbs up. This is a great game. I don't know. It definitely is not. It's not better than 1. I don't even think it's better than 2. But I definitely think that it is one of the best games of the genre. And still, I think Team Ninja does an amazing job with their combat, with their bosses. And overall, this is my game of the year. I mean, I don't see anything being better than this. So that's my review for this. Like I said, like I alluded to this, I will have a First Berserker review coming out soon, but I wanted to get this out there because I definitely wanted to have this up on my channel sooner rather than later. I am excited to be back. I should be doing some streaming here soon, but yeah, thanks guys for checking it out, and I'll see you.